everyone, it's Amber Spotted Elk at the Paper Owl. Thank you so much for watching today. We have 4 fun fall DIYs in store. If you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up. It really helps out my channel. Also, comment below, let me know which one of these projects is your favorite. And if you'd like to become part of the Paper Owl DIY family, hit that subscribe button and hit the notification bell so you can get notified every single time that I upload, which is currently every Sunday and Thursday. Without further ado, let's get started.
All right, we are jumping right in with these rugs from the Dollar Tree. So I'm taking 2 of these kind of like carpet cutout looking rugs, and then I'm taking the Gather sign rug. I also had the red truck but decided to use the Gather sign for this. So I'm basically cutting this one rug in half. I measured to make sure I got almost exactly in half. I used my rotary blade to cut that. If you don't have a rotary blade, I highly suggest getting one. They are absolutely amazing and I love using mine, and it cut through this so great. And then I went around with my regular scissors and just kind of cleaned up the edges. Like I said, this looks like it's kind of a cutout of just regular carpet. And maybe it is, and they're just repurposing it as a rug at the Dollar Tree. That wouldn't surprise me, but so again, just cleaning up those edges because they're pretty raw, and I didn't want little carpet pieces coming undone with this. And so I take this half piece that I cut out, attach it to one of the full size pieces that I got, and I'm just using E6000 and hot glue and alternating it up and down that seam where they're connected. And honestly, this held really amazing. I was actually surprised at how well this held these 2 rugs together. I thought that for sure it was not gonna hold as well as it did. And so after it was all dry and I saw it was holding well, just to be safe, I did add just some duct tape and ran it horizontally across that vertical line, just to make sure that it was going to be nice and sturdy and not going to fall apart once it's being used. So I did go back and do that. I didn't show you guys that, but I wanted you to know that I did do that. And so here is that Gather rug, and I decided to cut out the piece here. I was gonna just have it lay flat on the rug, but I decided that I wanted to have this be a little bit more of an accent piece. The rugs are pretty thin. They're nice, but they are pretty thin. And so I decided to just cut out around here, and I am fussy cutting and getting in between all the leaves, all the little nooks and crannies around this floral piece around the Gather word. So I definitely, took the time to make sure that I got it cut well, and it was not that hard, and I just used my regular scissors. Like I said, this rug is pretty thin, so my regular scissors worked fine. And you can see when I flipped that around with just the glue, it was holding fine. You can't barely see the seam where I put these 2 together, which I was super happy about. I take my E6000, I put that all in the middle of this piece to make sure it's got that kind of strong hold, and I just kind of put that all over. And then I take the hot glue and put that around the edges, and I made sure that I got right up to all of the points and the little divots and everything with the hot glue on this, because I do plan on using this, and I don't want someone to be like, wiping their feet or just walking across it and have an edge start to come up, and then all of a sudden that whole Gather piece is trying to come off of the rug or anything like that. So I'm making sure that I have plenty of hot glue all around every single little leaf and everything, to make sure it's nice and secure. And then I also take some nautical rope and put it around the edge. Like I said, this looks super raw and just like a cut piece of carpet, and so I wanted to make it look a little bit more finished, and I think it definitely was the right touch for that. And then also, next up we have our pumpkin topiary, and I painted all of these pumpkins white. I didn't think I needed to show you guys that, although I am showing you the colors that I paint them. I just didn't want to be too redundant with the painting. So the first two pumpkins that we're going to use are the carvable pumpkins from the Dollar Tree, just those orange foam carvable pumpkins that Dollar Tree has like thousands of this year. So I do take out the stem and cut a hole in the middle. It does help with the painting so that you can kind of stick your fingers in there and then get all around the pumpkin. So that is something that I recommend, and we are going to stick stuff in that hole, so it is also necessary for what we're doing. And the top two pumpkins are actually pumpkins that I got from Walmart, and they were each 98 cents each. Or no, I'm sorry, just that skinnier pumpkin was from Walmart. The other one was a Dollar Tree pumpkin that they had in all of their pumpkin stuff this year. Like, I know they had some that were like burlap, and then some that were just painted differently in like oranges and stuff. And so just that one pumpkin was from Walmart. And I painted this bottom one, I think it's mineral, which is kind of like a gray tan taupey color, I guess, if that's kind of, I think that's kind of the color of it. But I went with, and then I painted the next one moss, as you can see here, by Waverly. And I wanted to go with some more of the kind of muted fall colors, or just not traditional fall colors, with like the bright reds and oranges and yellows, which you could absolutely do with this. If that fits better with your decor, then definitely do what's going to make you happy with your pieces. I know I've said this before in my other videos, but do the colors and the designs on any of your projects the way that you're going to like it, the way that's going to make you happy when you walk through your house and see something that you've created. You're definitely going to want to make sure that it's all cohesive with your decor in your house. So all of these are now painted, and you can see I did a yellow and then the elephant color in Waverly as well. And I decided that we needed to put some weight in these bottom two pumpkins to make sure it wasn't like this was just styrofoam pumpkins and it was going to fly off of a table if you walked by it and the breeze hit it. So it needed some weight for sure. So I took some of the black rocks from the Dollar Tree and just put some hot glue down inside of them, and some E6000, and made sure that there was some weight to this. It makes it feel more high end, it makes it more sturdy. So this is all around a step that I would not skip making this project. So just keep that in mind, and you could put, you know, anything that's small enough to fit in here that you have, that's going to help weigh it down. I mean, if you've got marbles or, you know, whatever rocks from your backyard that are going to fit in here, then use those. But definitely use something to weigh it down, whatever you have around the house. You know, you don't have to have rocks from the Dollar Tree or what have you. Definitely use things that you already have at home if you're making stuff. So I use some E6000 and some hot glue to put these together, because again, I don't want something falling apart if it gets knocked over or something. I don't want one of those pumpkins or all the pumpkins to go flying everywhere and be embarrassed about a project that I made. So I get those all stacked up. I make a hole at the top to put a little stem, and which I got from the Dollar Tree in those wooden pieces that they have, those little like cut up branches. And instead of just putting some hot glue and sticking it on there, I made the hole so that I could stick the stem down in the pumpkin a little bit so that it was nice and secure, again, to make sure that it's well put together. And then I just use a shoestring bow with the farmhouse ribbon from the Dollar Tree. Love this ribbon so much. So glad I found it. I just recently found it like a few weeks ago, and so happy about it. I'd seen someone else use it and was just super excited that I had found that. And then next up I am using these 3 pumpkins from the Dollar Tree. That one is the Thankful and Blessed pumpkin that comes with that little metal leaf on it. And then the second pumpkin is that 3D pumpkin. And then the third pumpkin I'm using for this project is that a little baby pumpkin that comes from that family, friends, and football sign from the Dollar Tree. So I take a sanding sponge and go around the edges and just make sure that all the pumpkins are kind of cleaned up a little bit. Sometimes they have some rough edges, and so I take the sanding sponge, I go around that, and then I wipe them all down to make sure I've got a nice clean surface. And I am using the backs of these, so I'm not bothering with what's on the front. And I always wipe down my projects before I start anything with them, gluing or painting or whatever, because you want a nice clean surface to be working on. So that's definitely something I recommend for you doing any project, is just to wipe it down a little bit and make sure any dust, debris, or dirt is off of it. And I'm using this shiplap scrapbook paper that I had. I had this in a 12 by 12 paper pad that I already owned, but Hobby Lobby does sell shiplap paper, and you can get it for $1, which is an amazing deal. You'll only need 2 sheets if you use these pumpkins that I have in this video. So the first sheet on the pumpkin, it doesn't quite fit. You can see a little bit hanging off on the right side there, and that's fine because it's going to be covered up by the second pumpkin. So just keep that in mind. And I did use just regular glue sticks, and I'm using that tool to make sure that it's sticking well. I don't have any bubbles, that there's no uneven glue underneath. And you could use a credit card to do that part as well. That would work really well if you don't have one of those tools. And the second piece of scrapbook paper, you're going to be able to fit both of your pumpkins on that one. So next, what I do is I take scissors and I get as close to the edges as possible. And then anything left over, I take my sanding sponge and I run it across in a downward motion. I don't go back up because that can catch your paper and make it come unglued. So just go in a downward motion, and you'll get all of that excess paper off, and give yourself a nice clean edge. It's gonna look so nice. The cutting and or using a craft knife to get around the edges, I just feel like doesn't give me as clean of an edge as I want, and that sanding really does. So I highly recommend that. And here you can see I'm just kind of laying out the pumpkins to see how I want them to be fit together. And then I decide that I want to kind of distress the edges of these pumpkins. So I use this ink pad from Michael's to go around the edges and just kind of highlight those edges and give it more of a, I don't know, it just looks a little bit more put together, a little bit more finished, and just gives it a nicer touch, I feel like. So you can absolutely use an ink pad, you can use some paint, you could use a Sharpie marker if you wanted to, you can, a paint pen, anything that's going to make those edges black, you can absolutely do. Or if you, like I said, wanted to use a different color, anything you can have will work. I just had my ink pad just happened to be there nearby, so I grabbed that, and that worked out really well. It went by quickly. And next up, I am going to attach the word harvest to these pumpkins. I did initially paint this word black. I decided that was a little bit too much black, and so I went back and painted it in Waverly's chalk paint in the color moss. So it's kind of that green color, and it just helps everything kind of go together a little bit better. I feel like the harvest, because the shiplap paper is kind of this white and black, and we've got black twine around the stems, it was just a little bit too much black. It looked like it was kind of sinking into the background. So using a different color on that, I think, was a must. It really helped it pop. And speaking of pop, I did add some of the foam adhesive pop-up tape to the word so that it was elevated off of the pumpkins, so there was kind of that gap there. I did take that metal leaf and paint it in the color moss as well. And so you can see there's like that shadow underneath the sign, underneath harvest, because I do have it elevated on that tape, and that is from the Dollar Tree. It comes in a 3-pack, and it's a small, medium, and large size. So I used the smallest size and cut it down so that it could fit on the back there, and just layered it to make sure that it could stay elevated between both signs, or both pumpkins. I take some black and white twine, some of the buffalo check ribbon from the Dollar Tree, and use that on the 2 large pumpkins. And then I use pieces of those together on the small pumpkin. So it's kind of like a mom and dad and a little baby pumpkin, which I love because that's how my family is. It's just my husband and I, and then our son. And so it's kind of a little nod to our family as well, which I thought was super cute. And so and then I add some of the pip berry. I take the berries off and just use the brown metal string or metal stuff to make a little curly Q on that second pumpkin, and that's pretty much it for decorating these. I'm making the final bow for the little baby pumpkin and adding that on. And then I decided that I wanted to make this able to stand, and so I use a painter's stick that I had left over from another project, so it was just a smaller piece. If you're like me, you don't get rid of anything, so I'm glad that I kept this, because it was actually already the perfect size to be able to use as a kickstand for this piece. So I simply put some hot glue on here, add it to the back in the position that I want these pumpkins to stand, and hold it there until it's nice and dry. And then I add some additional hot glue and some E6000 just to make sure that it is nice and secure. Again, you don't want someone walking by your table or your shelf or anything, and the breeze from them walking by just knocks over your projects and they fall apart. Like, this is just a reoccurring nightmare for me. I have no idea where it comes from. I don't feel like I've ever had any projects do that, and maybe that's because I have such a fear of that happening that I make sure that everything is super secure, super well put together, just to make sure that that moment of embarrassment doesn't happen to me. And I'm sure it probably will one of these days, and it's not the end of the world. It's just something that I constantly think about. So again, reinforcing that glue just to make sure. So But you know, if you don't even have to add that on there. If you just want it to lay against something else, then that's absolutely how it could be. You could even add some twine to this if you wanted to, or one of those picture hanging things from the Dollar Tree, and you could hang it up. Really, whatever is gonna make you happy with your project, do that. Like, you don't have to add a kickstand. You could have it hanging, you could have it leaning, whatever you want. So, but there's the final sign. It turned out so cute, super happy with it. Next up are these 4 pumpkins. These are the ones that had like the glitter word saying on them. I was going to use it for something else, and so I had already taken, you know, most of the paint and stuff off of here. So you guys didn't get to see that, but I decided that I'm going to paint these brown as a base color, and I'm not necessarily dry painting, but I am not giving it full coverage. So I am just kind of going over all of them, getting pretty close to full coverage, but leaving some bare spots, because I am going to go back through with different colors on each of them and want it to look more distressed. So that is just kind of the look that I was going for. So if you want to make sure that there is full coverage on that base coat, then absolutely. And I do both sides because I originally was going to do something different with this, but I decided not to. So I did paint both sides. You don't have to do that if you don't want to, or if one side's not going to be seen, then absolutely you don't have to. But I'm glad I did both sides because I think it'll give me a little bit more leverage on where I put this because the back is finished. So I put Waverly white chalk paint, and I did dry brush this color, the second color that I put on all of these. I did dry brush that just to give it that distressed look. So if you're not familiar with dry brushing, oh my goodness, why I can't speak at all. I'm sorry. So if you're not familiar with dry brushing, it's basically how it sounds. So you take a dry brush, so it's not dipped in water or anything like that, and then you take a little bit of paint, and you then take any excess paint and wipe it off on, you know, a towel or what have you, whatever you're wiping it off on, and try and get any of that excess paint off of there. And then take your brush and just lightly go across so that you're getting very light coverage. So you basically have a little more control over where you're getting that light coverage at versus if you had a lot of paint on your brush. So I did white, I did moss, and then I did a red color that I muted just a little bit with some brown paint. And then I took my ruler, made sure that I spelled out the word fall and all the letters were the same height. And I did it in pencil first, and then I went over it with the Sharpie paint marker, and I love the way this turned out. I was going to use my Cricut, and then I was going to use stickers from the Dollar Tree, and then decided, you know what, I can hand paint this. Like this, you know, for the look that I was going for, like I can hand paint this, and I wanted to show you guys that you can too. Like I don't have great handwriting, and sometimes I don't like to use stuff that I do by hand, but I'm actually really happy with how this turned out. Like seriously really happy with it. So just showing you that you don't have to have a Cricut machine, you don't have to you know, or a vinyl cutting machine, and you can absolutely do stuff by hand. And then I am alternating these, as you can see, staggering them and gluing them together, and I'm so happy with how these turned out. I just think it's such a cute little sign, and I love the colors. I took some twine and just made little shoestring bows to tie at the top, and just kept it pretty simple. Like you could definitely go extra with these, add some pipberry, add some leaves. Like you could definitely do some more with this. I liked having it be a little bit more simple. Sometimes I tend to get a little bit crazy and a little bit too extra with some of my stuff and let it get out of hand. So I thought just a simple shoestring bow, and that's it. Like, voila, it's done. A little bit of paint, a little bit of hand lettering, and I mean, I really love the way this sign turned out. I just think it turned out super cute. And versus, those little pumpkins that the Dollar Tree had, these pumpkins this year, they're actually cute by themselves with the glitter words. I'm not a big fan of the glitter, but they were actually just nice by themselves if you wanted to keep them by themselves. But here's a project if you want to do something different. Love the way those turned out. And here is our final of the rug. You can see I painted some little muddy feet on there, and I'm so happy with how this turned out, you guys. Like, I think this is super cute, and only for, $3 you get a nice rug for fall. And here's our pumpkin topiary. These colors are everything to me. I love the way that turned out. And then we have our harvest pumpkin sign with our little family of pumpkins. And again, just love the way it turned out. And then our fall sign, super happy with these colors as well. You guys, let me know which project is your favorite in the comments below. And thank you so much for watching today. I hope you guys give these a try, and happy crafting.